So let me tell.
Let's go. We
So,
are live.
hi everybody. We are live, and that is Mike J. Dennis 5. And I'm from the Breath of Daydreams, and we're doing a classroom for um, the Society of Secretly Perfect Poets. Oh, there's a lot of feedback.
There's a lot of feedback. Oh, from here.
Yeah, from your speaker. Yeah. Hello? That's much better.
So when you're talking, if I mute it, then it'll go. It's strange how it really picks up. But now we're on YouTube. I'll have to use. I think try the computer, see if it comes up better, and see if the picture is also very good.
That'll work. That'll work.
Yeah.
So, I think since it's going to be recorded, whether anybody's in here or not yet, because we can't really tell because it changes up there, that we just go ahead and kind of get started and explain
I
what we're
think
going
so.
to do. What do you think?
Good idea. Yes, because like you say, it'll be there. It'll be recorded. It'll always be there. Hi,
Yeah.
Overlord.
Hi, Overload. How are you
Yeah.
doing today? Overload's just waking up.
It's just waking up. What time is it there?
6 a.m., 7
Is
a.m.,
it?
7 a.m.
Is it?
But
Yeah.
but when y'all go forward and catch up with us, they go
Yes.
backwards.
They go backwards. Of course, I said would do. Oh dear.
Not all of us, not all of
No,
it does. Half of it goes forward and half of it
and
goes
half goes
backward.
back. Yeah.
Weird, huh?
Oh, of course, because it becomes our fall, isn't it? It's too early.
But we have got some poetic definitions to share and
We
some
have.
bits and bobs
Yeah,
to
we have.
go over with everyone, don't we?
We do. Yes. So yeah, the bits and bobs to go over are interesting. The definitions are fascinating because we we often umbrella them into one, like we call it alliteration, but we have consonant alliteration and we have assonant
Excellent.
alliteration as
Yeah.
well. Yeah.
And I
So
got that in there so that we
you
can
did.
go over that.
That's
Yes,
right.
I have
Yeah.
all of that in there.
You do have all that in there, yes. Because
Yeah.
well, when you think that all these devices are gifted to a poet because it means we can write, we have a far bigger range of words we can use and drop into our poetry. And it also engages with the reader. Like using consonants will often, because we're getting the reader to go over the same, not necessarily the same word, but the same sound. Because
Yeah.
if we use an F and we use a PH, different words, but they have the same
Yeah.
sound.
I think as we go over each of these things and work it down, I think it will click in people's heads easier than just as random explanations, because
Yeah,
a lot like music theory, as you start building upon the theory, everything works together better and then you see the big picture better, and I think that'll happen with this.
I think so. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree. Totally agree.
So you want to just start at the top and go with it, and then work into the today, and because by the time we get to the today, we'll be able to use, well, we won't be able to use everything that we speak about since we're talking about iambic pentameter and stuff like that as well, but we'll be able to speak about most of it.
That's right, because I ams, like, let's get, if it lets me into your definitions, which were really good and really brilliant to get putting together so
Thank you.
quickly. Uh,
But should we just start at the top with the structural elements? Just even explaining this is what
yeah,
a stanza is. This is what a verse, because many of us know, but many of us don't, and many of us get it confused. And sometimes it's nice just to get a refresh
it is.
and
Yeah, definitely.
relearn.
Because, and a lot of people use it, but don't know they use it or don't
Yeah.
know how they use it, but they
Yes.
often do. They do it without even thinking,
Yes.
which is great. Well, wait, my pad's going round and round in circles. It's waiting. Can you please?
Ah.
I'm sort of we're hoping.
Well, if you have WhatsApp on what you're looking at, it's in our forums chat on WhatsApp too. Thank you, Overlord. It was a little bit. It was a little bit.
Yeah, crumbs! I'm surprised the amount you got done in such a short time.
Well, fortunately, there's some good websites that I was able to read through and draw from. That helped out a bit
That
because
helps.
I certainly did not remember all of this from the top of my head.
No. Now I'm worried if I restart my phone, I'll lose my I'll lose the hearing aid. It'll go over to there.
Oh,
Where are we? Yeah. So it's in the classroom, isn't it?
it's in the classroom on Instagram, and on WhatsApp, it's in the
Yeah.
poetry forums folder. And so
That's it.
that'll allow you to pull it up bigger, whereas Instagram does not allow you to pull it up bigger.
Right. So yes. So what Angelica's done is a bit of study hall scribbles. So everyone follow along as we talk. Do pardon the
Yes.
non-academic style in the daydream kitty head stays in the clouds to try and sound academic in more than brief spurts.
Yes.
I hope it's yes. And you're so wrong.
I'm so
Right.
wrong about what?
You're academic in spurts. No, definitely not.
Oh
Far
yeah,
more than
no,
that.
no, I'm probably
Yeah,
not
yeah, far more
academic
than
ever, but you know, we can pretend. We can
that. Okay.
pretend that I can slip into it for like 2 seconds before sliding right back out.
Yeah. Well, I think we all know.
Hi, Cass.
We know the stanza. Hi,
Well,
Casper.
hi,
Hi, Tommy.
Tommy. Well, some people may not because I know
No.
a lot of people get stanza and verse mixed up, which even though from what I'm reading, verse can be different things. But
Yes.
I think we should, so as to be fair to everyone and not single out anyone, we should just go through all of it like none of us know it.
Which probably
And
yes, probably a good idea, and we'll all pick up something from it.
that's right.
That's right. So yeah, stanza yes is a group of lines, and it's set apart by others by a blank line or an indentation. Um, so yeah, so usually we use a blank line, either one or two spaces between a stanza,
Yes.
and yeah, so that's what we do. And a stanza can be, depending on the form, it will we will have either a metered syllable count or we will not have a metered syllable
And
count.
I go over that too, and what the name of it is.
That's right. Yes, you do.
Yes, I
You
did.
do.
Yeah.
So then, to differentiate from a verse can be just a single line, and or it can be one long poem. Yeah, if
Yeah.
you if
It can
you
be all
if you just
three.
flow it, it can be all three, and it can be a stanza. That's right. It depends who you're speaking to. It depends what you're writing, and what you're the reason you're writing. And I love the way you've added canto as well, which is a
But
medieval pattern. That's right of writing and of modern long poetry.
yeah, I thought it was
So it's
important because so many people, when they're freestyling now, it's essentially writing
it is yeah,
a
that's right.
canto.
It is a canto, and often it is poetic prose.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
So it's made up of at least 5 lines, and it's usually much, much longer, kind of like the epics
yeah.
or the
Like a yes,
narrative poetry.
that's right. An epic poem, and we all love epic poems.
Yes.
Yes, and next we come on to the really interesting thing that throws most people out is meter. We're obsessed with it in English and British poetry. Not so
Yes.
much continental. They are not so worried about meter. If you go into French sonnets and Italian sonnets, we only obsess on meter when we start writing them over here, because English is not always the best language to
For
write
poetry.
poetry. No,
Yes.
because we can limit ourselves, and that's when the other parts come in useful. you know, knowing consonants and accents and how we use them.
It helps us get that melodic form that
It
carries it
does.
forward like a
Yeah,
song. And used to, so much of storytelling was in song. And
it was.
so I think
That's
it
right.
appeals to part of us that we
It does.
don't know.
Because as we've spoken before, that natural balance, the way our minds work, um, is in 8, 10 syllables.
Yes.
Because we don't realise it, but when most of the time we speak, we sing that speech
Yes.
because
We're very
we know
sing
if we
songy.
hit somebody who talks in monotone, you don't listen to them for very long.
No, you
No,
don't.
no, you either
And
think of a
so,
reason for leaving
yeah.
or fall asleep.
And so meter, when
Yeah,
you hear people talking about meter, that's actually the pattern of the beats that are found in the line of the
yeah,
poetry. It's a combination of the beats and the stresses on those beats. And so it can be like ba bum, bum bum, bum
yeah.
bum, or ba ba bum, ba ba bum, ba ba
It's
bum,
exactly that. Yes,
or bum bum ba, bum ba ba, bum ba ba.
but it's
It
always got that
changes.
constant rhythm. Yeah, whether we're
Yes.
using stressed, unstressed, or unstressed, or we're using other types where we have a series of unstressed before we hit a
That
stressed.
in here too.
And
I
you've
got that
covered
in here
that.
too.
You've
I
covered that later
did.
on. Yeah,
I sure did. And so whenever you're doing that, the stressed and unstressed, unstressed is for what we're going with will be the ba, the
yeah.
soft ba, and then a stressed syllable is the bum. So think of it as like if you're in a marching band and you got the dun 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 dun
Yeah,
dun, dun. You can hear the rhythm of
it's
the
that
stresses.
softer word. That softer word is your unstressed. That is why I always say when working with meter, especially sonic type meter, do not use over complex words or words with so many syllables in because
It'll
you
mess up the
really
feet.
you come undone. You really do come
Yes.
undone. Um,
Which brings us to the foot in the next, which really helps explain why it comes undone. Because I didn't understand the why,
the
until
why.
I started reading into the whole idea of the foot.
Yes.
And that explains it better to me.
Yeah. So we come back with an old friend, what everyone's terrified of, iambic pentameter.
And Casper says it's beautifully simple. It is, and that's what's so amazing is when you hear people, or when I have heard people talking about it online, it can fly over my head so fast because I'm like, I don't understand what you're saying. But when you break it down in these simple, simple words, it's like, oh, wait a minute, this is insanely simple. Why
Yeah.
aren't y'all just saying it simply? Um,
Because they, I don't, I think I hope we're moving away from this elitist view of of meter and the use of meter. Um, it's a shame. It's a shame. It's a shame it's not taught more now at that level, or taught in an interesting manner, because
yeah,
often they bore you to death with
big
some of the
words.
with big words and poets you would never think about reading. No,
Yes. So you
because
want to explain what a foot is?
right. So a metric foot is in iambic pentameter is an unstressed syllable followed by a stressed syllable.
Well, before we go into iambic pentameter, maybe we should explain what a foot actually is. Like it contains two or three beats, because
Oh yes,
nobody
yeah,
knows what a
because
foot actually
yeah,
is.
yeah, a foot, yeah, a foot can be 2 beats or 3 beats, as we've said before. We have an unstressed syllable plus a stressed, or we can have two unstressed syllables and a stressed syllable. So we have 3 beats to that.
Yeah, so like each line of poetry is made out, the meter of each line of
Yeah.
poetry is made out of a number of feet or
Yes.
feet.
Yeah.
And whatever those feet are, which we're going to go down and list some of the more popular different types, the sound, that rhythm, ba bum, ba bum, or ba ba bum, that will tell you what type it is. And then the second part, where it's like the pentameter or
Yeah.
whatever,
Would be
will tell you how
5.
many sets of them there are.
Yeah.
So no matter what you're doing, if you're doing a form, you have a number of sets of feet, and each of those feet will contain that meter. Well, it's not the
Yeah,
meter, that there's a word
this
for it, and I have it written here somewhere
it's here
else.
somewhere. Right now.
So um, let me find it. There is a word for it, and I did not know that. Thought I wrote it down. I may not have wrote it down.
No, because anyway, iambs, uh, iambic is pentameter is 5 feet with 2 beats per foot, whereas anapestic tetrameter has 4 anapests to each line, and each one has a 3-syllable foot.
Yeah, I think
But
that's going. I don't think
yeah,
that's probably making
no, I think
sense because we're
when we
going to have
walk
to
through
break
some
it.
of those, um, well, then, yeah, because you put an example there. Think of "'Twas the night before Christmas." So
Well,
that's its
if
3 foot style.
well, you started with iambic
Yeah,
pentameter, so instead of mixing
two.
them up, why don't we go through iambic pentameter and explain that out, and then
Yeah,
go through the next and the next. That way, they can kind of get
they could follow
what
it
it
as well.
is better.
That's right.
Yes.
So iambic pentameter is very common in English poetry. We use it a lot, particularly on sonnets, and the word sonnet means little song. So you know if you read it back to yourself and it sings, and there's no jarry bits, you know you've pretty much got it right. You're pretty much
Yeah.
there. So don't use complicated words or very long words, especially at the beginning or the end, because you really do. And then, so each line has 5 sets of 2 beats, and the first is unstressed. And an English sonnet always starts off with an unstressed syllable.
And so that's what the iambic is. It's telling you that the first line, the first syllable is unstressed, and the
Unstressed.
second syllable is stressed. So for anything that's iambic, those syllables will be bum 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 bum
Ba-bum.
bum 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 bum, like a heartbeat.
Yeah.
And so that's
So it's,
iambic.
yeah. Soft, loud, soft, loud, soft, loud. Yeah.
And it doesn't change. That pattern doesn't change.
No, you go through an issue. Well, we've gone to deviations another time because our friend William Shakespeare is very good at tricking us into thinking it is iambic pentameter, but when you look closely, he's tweaked it a little bit just to suit himself, and you don't realise it because he's that good.
Yeah. And I don't know what Casper inadequate reflective goes down to corrections. I'm not. I'll let Mike figure that out.
Can you say that one again?
Meter.
Meter.
Ah, gotcha.
Aha.
Thank you.
Oh, I didn't. Was it? Oh, right. I got you. Inadequate reflection goes down to corrections. Meter. Right. It's all right. I was missing most of the comments, and
Oh,
then of course I touched the screen. Oh, they pop because I'm thinking, where's that come down?
oh, that's right. When you
Oh, I
hit on the
see.
little deal, you can say live chat where all messages are visible. And right now, like it says top, so
Yeah.
uh, probably didn't see them all. Yep, didn't see
No.
them. I didn't see them all.
No.
That's good to
No.
know.
It's good to know. Yeah, that's because they disappear and then they fade away, and just to leave you with the bottom one.
Yeah, I bet you know a lot more than you let on,
Oh,
Casper.
absolutely
I've
right.
seen your
Yeah.
poetry.
Yes.
And so for an example of the iambic pentameter, which pentameter, penta means five, so that means there's
Yeah.
5 feet of those 2 syllable counts, which equals 10 syllables per line.
Yes. So that's it.
And
That's where we are.
yeah.
That's where we are.
So
So
shall I compare thee to a summer's day is a good example of it.
it certainly is, and you just read it, and it's how. But then again, it's how you read it. So if you read too quickly,
Yeah, that's true.
you'll lose it. So yeah,
Read it in your English gloriousness.
right. No,
Gloriousness.
right. So shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Yeah, because you've got the stress on the I, and there compare. So com is the unstressed, and pair, and then the to a summer's day.
It's
So
interesting. It's
it just
interesting.
goes,
Yeah.
yeah. And then you've got your ba-bum, 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 ba-bum. So it just goes that like me.
Yeah, I never would have thought of whenever I hate it. I'll just say it. When I was younger and was forced to read Shakespeare due to the classes that I took, I hated it. Couldn't understand it.
I think
Couldn't
most
read
of us did.
it.
Most of
Didn't
us
get
did.
it.
Yeah. We were
And I
forced to
never would
watch
have.
Othello. And
Yeah.
heavens, that was, yeah. What a Hamlet.
Yeah. And I never would have thought ba bum, ba bum, ba bum when I was reading that. Never would it have crossed my mind to read those lines
I think,
like that.
no, I think if they'd explained better in English classes, rather than thinking you're going to get it, I think we'd have all probably progressed a lot quicker
I think so too.
and enjoyed this ancient poetry rather than thinking it's a grind I have to do for an examination,
Yeah, I think so
which it
too.
was.
It really was. Yes.
Mm,
And so that's what iambic pentameter is. We so often hear people go, "Oh, iambic pentameter," and I'm
yeah.
like, "Yeah, okay, sure, whatever, yeah, good." But now it's like, "Oh, okay,
Oh,
I get
right.
that
Yeah.
now."
Yeah. Definitely get that. And yeah,
And
beautifully done as well.
and then we have blank verse, which can be iambic pentameter, but without the rhyme, like Macbeth.
Yes.
So it's poetry written in unrhymed lines, but with a regular metrical pattern. It can be
Yes.
different metrical patterns, but they just don't rhyme.
No. But in your
There's
mind, they work and they flow
because of the movement.
because of the movement. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So free verse is lines that are unrhymed and have no consistent metrical pattern. But then again, it might have structure, as you said there, and think of Walt Whitman, very much so. Look at Walt Whitman, and he uses assonance, he uses consonants, he
And
uses
his
I
poetry is
rhymes.
gorgeous.
It's so, but it says it's not rhymed, but your brain will pick it up because it's
It's
very
musical.
cleverly, and that's the consonants and assonance
Yeah.
he's used on there. So even if it doesn't look like that, he's used words that are so associated and so similar. He's
Yeah.
created a rhyme.
He creates, even though there's not a constant rhythm, it's
Yeah,
melodious
it is
in how
because
it winds.
it makes it a joy to read. We should have really pulled out some examples as well because
We
that
probably
would have
should.
been.
Well, maybe that's something we can do for a future class is pull
I think
out
so.
an example of each of these. That's
Yes, I
just
do think so.
gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we come back to our good old friend, the anapestic tetrameter.
Yes.
And that consists of 4 anapests in each line of verse. And anapest is a 3-syllable foot. So that's where we have our 3-syllable foot. So it's bar, bar, bum. So it's, yeah, so it's unstressed, unstressed, stressed. And
Yes.
that's how it works. Yeah.
Which is very popular in nursery rhyme type things and the sing-songy.
But they're
Uh,
the things you remember
yeah.
and remember from childhood because they're just easy to remember. And if you think these were mainly brought together in a time when the majority of people were illiterate, so and even a lot of the bards were illiterate, they couldn't
Yeah.
actually, so they made it up and they did these wonderful stories. um,
The rhythm helps the brain
and it
remember
does.
it, and because it's got that da 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 da,
Yeah,
and we do so much in life even with that da 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 da.
yeah.
It's just a
It's
common
natural.
rhythm.
It's a natural rhythm. And then we get to our friends, the Welsh poetry and Irish poetry forms. They were all verbal,
Yeah,
and that's hence why it's like grappling sand running through your fingers, trying to get the the actual back to the root of the poem. It never will, because these guys were travelling bards, very talented, and it
right.
was their job to, well, they earned their living or bed and board by the spoken word. So
Yeah,
we had to big up the big cheese here
that makes
wherever they
sense.
were.
Yeah,
Yes,
that
so
makes sense.
that's why things got changed, and they had to do quite a long apprenticeship to become a bard. They,
Yeah,
yeah. Hence, when we look at some of this later, when we look at some of the more complicated ones, that are really torturous to write, but great to listen to.
yeah. But I
Just to
think we'll
see.
have. I think if we work our way up to them and we have a better understanding of what the formula is, it'll become easier because we won't be second guessing so
No,
much because we'll have already learned how to do so
yeah.
much.
And then look at our knitting patterns,
Yes.
the way the syllables that work. Yeah,
Yeah. And so a good example of the anapestic, which is a 3 syllable foot, the ba ba bum, and has 4 feet. So that means it's 12 syllables per line, always, if it's
always.
a anapestic tetrameter. It can't be anything but a 12-syllable line. Um, is 'Twas the night before Christmas.
That's it.
And that's such a sing song. 'Twas the night before Christmas.
When nothing has stirred.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's but that line, "'Twas the night before Christmas," isn't an apestic
So just let you know
tetrameter.
where it is. Yep. And then
And
we
then
have,
we have the trochaic
yeah,
tetrameter.
and that's 4 trochaic feet each line. It's one you don't really think of because you're not looking because you're looking at consonant rhyme with twinkle twinkle little star.
Have a good day,
So
Casper. Thank you.
yeah, so
Yeah, and
yeah,
so and so that means for trochaic, it's a 2 syllables per foot, and the first syllable is stressed. Unlike these other ones, this one the first syllable is stressed,
yeah,
and the second syllable is the softer. So it's like bumba, bumba,
oh,
bumba, bumba, and so twinkle, twinkle, little star. And even though that last one doesn't have the ba falling off, when you're singing it or saying it, you still
it's there because
feel
you go
that.
with with the flow. That's right.
Um, so that is that one. And then you want to do the next one?
Then yeah, dactylic hexameter or pterodactyl. I love it. Or as Daydream says,
Because it's a pterodactyl and it's a
pterodactyl
hexameter.
hexameter.
And
Yes,
hexameter, yeah, sorry.
I think, yeah, I
I'm
like
a
it.
dork.
It's actually a good way of remembering too. Yeah, yeah, dictalic, dictalic. Hmm? Ditalic is a 3 syllable with a first stress and 2 unstressed. Bum, bar, bar. So it's interesting the way it works for in there, and it means there are 6 sets of threes per line, so that makes 18 syllables a line. So stressed, unstressed, unstressed.
I read that it was often in Greek poetry and such. And so when I read that, I think of, and because of the line, the bum ba ba bum ba ba bum ba
Yeah,
ba, I think of the marching
yeah.
drums as people are on the drill field or they're marching long places. So I wonder if it was used with cadences and stuff a lot as
Could well
well.
be. It could well be. That's right. But it's not one we use a lot.
Right.
It's not one we use
And
a lot.
18 syllables. Now, see, it gave me an example, and I went and looked at the example, and the example was 31 syllables. It was not 18 syllables. And even when I divided that into two, that did not become 18. So
No.
I didn't know what to do with it.
Oh,
And I
that's
don't know if I
interesting.
know of an 18 syllable. That's a long line.
It is, yeah.
And hope you enjoy it when you do Overlord, looking at the slides in front of you. But from what I read, it says that we don't often use that in today's
Ah,
poetry.
Charge the Light Brigade. Oh, but then they played with that one because he did
Yeah,
use dactyls, but yeah, he didn't use hexameter though. He just used dactyls.
exactly.
So on that one,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
that's interesting.
I didn't find one that when I actually counted it up fit the hexameter part.
Oh, got one here from Longfellow, Evangeline.
That's 31 syllables.
That's, I've got one here, 13.
Oh, you
It's
got a
actually
13
18,
one?
isn't it?
Because I counted 31, not 13.
So the one they put here is, this is the forest primeval, the murmuring pines and the hemlocks. But that is not enough. Because we're looking for 18 a line.
Maybe that's something we can do when we pull in the
I think
poems.
we'd do that because when you're looking at them and you
Yeah,
think, no, the lines they're given as examples are
or
either
not
way
correct.
short or way long. So
Yeah,
that is one we will sort out, and we will we'll read it because especially if it works, because it will be interesting.
yeah.
Because it's not really one you really think of.
It's not. And these are just a couple of the examples of the patterns that they have, the meters there are, because there are many more. That's just a few examples.
It is.
And
Oh, God,
then
yes. Yeah.
and so then as a shortcut to figure it out, like whenever you read somebody has this, or if you're just trying to figure out some rhythms in your own mind, I listed the different words and the sounds, the stressed and unstressed patterns,
Yeah.
syllable count, and then gave you some words to help you hear it.
It's
So
all
like
there.
I am is ba-bum, stress, unstressed, stressed, and then include, repair, um, or two.
Yeah. And trioc is babum, as in flower, and twister,
Yeah, it's stressed, unstressed. So
unstressed.
anything that has that soft following falling off at the end. Anytime you hear a two-syllable word that falls off in speech, kind of, that would be
That's
that.
stressed, unstressed. That's right. And
Yes.
that's when you don't use them in sonnets, because people do. And they seem to try and twist it around and so going, but the th is never going to be unstressed.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then dactyl is
Dactyl.
stressed with two unstressed, so it's three syllables, like similar.
Yeah. The way we speak, we say it though, yeah, it's there, but it's because it's definitely a simp and then it's up. But you often the middle bit gets lost in the speed of speech.
Depends on where you're from.
It does, yes, it depends on where you're from. Yeah.
And then an antepast is two unstressed and one stressed, like ba ba bum, ba ba bum. And so understand, comprehend.
Yeah, they're there, aren't they? Because you've got that last bit. And then spondy is ba bum, upbeat, both stressed.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
we
a
don't use a lot
pow.
of yeah powerful words like that.
And then the word for pyrrhic is
Yeah,
two, um, unstressed. And you can think of it like to a or in the when you're reading like I like to write sometimes when I'm
yeah,
doing my prosy sort of poetry, including the two A's and in the just kind of makes it, it's a
it soft,
soft drop into the
softens it.
next.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, it
And
softens
so
it.
it's just two unstressed syllables in that foot. And so it's a you can have like you can have feet that are like three syllables and three syllables with that one little two syllable
Just,
connecting them, and it just creates something beautiful.
it does. It's a gentle musical tone length to it, and it strengthens, it lengthens the line, doesn't it?
Yes. And then the accent is the bum, that hard hit. When you
Yeah,
hear somebody talking about an accent, um, in a line, that would be the bum, which I think you should be able to remember because the bum is accented so much in so much of society. And so just think of bum, which is your hard hit, and that's your accent. Bum, bum. Hi, Angela.
yeah,
Hi, Ash. I don't know what an apes is. Oh,
and that's
a naps. Am I saying it wrong? Thank you. It's okay. It's okay, Angela.
I must be typing to another screen. That's good.
And so,
Yeah.
and then we've got the different kind of rhymes.
We have N rhyme, the last word of two or more line rhymes. Cat, hat, flow, row. And that's the way you work. And in cat
Uh,
and hat, yeah, are both
Very
consonant rhyme.
Susie.
Yeah. As is flow, flow and row, they're all consonant rhyme. Oh, joy,
Right.
yeah. One of your favourites, imperfect, slant, rhyme, half rhyme. Oh, it's got loads of ways people talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
And yeah, their words, they do not have identical sounding. Yeah, like bad and bat, but they're there and they work. They work
and,
together really well.
and that's an example of like how you
Yeah,
talk about the assonance. So that's an
yeah,
example of an assonant slant rhyme,
yeah.
whereas a consonant slant rhyme would have the consonant sounds sounding similar as opposed to the vowels. I find for me, I think assonance slant rhymes sound more rhymey
It does.
than consonant
Yeah,
ones. I don't I don't consider consonants ones as rhymes usually. I would not, for example, it gave redacted and kicked because of the
yeah.
ed. I would not consider that anything.
No,
I wouldn't use it,
that's the only way you use it.
mhm,
It gives you a wider sort of vocabulary of
but it
words
don't
to use.
sound
But
good.
if they don't sound right, then you don't use them. No, I
Mm.
know. Yeah. But then
I
someone who
don't.
does that, you've used I rhyme before, which is not spoken at all. It's what you see with the eye, and it worked beautifully.
Yeah, it's weird the whole variance of what rhyme is and
Yeah,
rhyme isn't, and does this work and does that work? It's to me kind of overcomplicated. It's like, does it sound good? Does it, when you say it, does it sound like it should go together? Okay, it works. And if it
that's it.
doesn't,
Then you
what
know.
Yeah, it's like all
Yeah,
these, because you can take these things. I can take and create assonance or consonants and oh, and that it auto corrected consonants to consonant. I am so sorry. I did not catch that. I need to correct that. But not all the words that would fit that by definition sound
no.
anything similar.
Sometimes, if you unconsciously using consonant rhyme, then you're using, like, say T or an F with the PH.
Yeah,
So, but if you're using it sort of scattered throughout, it ties it all together, and it will give it musicality. But you've done it unconsciously rather than deliberately.
that makes sense. So you're saying I need to not think of it as end rhyme and more think of it as the rhyme that goes throughout the meter
Yeah.
instead of think, because that's the problem is whenever I start thinking like that, I'm thinking of that last word and I'm going, no, that does not. But they're not talking about end rhyme necessarily. They're talking about the meter of the sentence. If you use several
Yes.
words that have consonants or assonants in them, then that sentence, and we often do that. I know I
Yeah.
do that a lot without
And
realizing it.
yeah, so in their end rhyme, I like
Okay.
A B A B. That's purely we are, and everything else is a syllable before it. But then we drop our consonants and within that line. But we have to maintain the end rhyme.
Yeah, see, I think for me, when I've thought of poetry before, I've never really considered when I'm thinking, ooh, rhyme, unless I'm intentionally putting it at the end or the beginning or somewhere
Yeah.
specific. I don't really think, oh, in each of these sentences, I'm using a bunch of assonants and consonants and rhymes. I don't think about that middle part
No, because it would ruin your poetry. If
if
you
we
if
thought
you're
about it too
if you're
much.
differently constructing it, then it would lose its soul, and you would absolutely hate it because you're thinking, yeah, but no, you
That
write,
makes sense.
yeah. It's nice knowing these things. It's nice knowing that often you're doing this without probably realizing it. But I think deliberately to sit there and try and drop this stuff in would be, I mean, N rhyme is fine and things, but yeah, trying to mess around too much. And if the words fit and work, then yeah, add it. But I don't deliberately sit there and try and work out a poem using it. I think
Well, learning that it can mean all of that has made when like Leslie, for example,
yeah,
comes in and starts breaking down the poem and going, you did
yes,
this here and this here and this is this here and this is here and you did that. And before I was like, yeah, sure I did.
yeah,
Okay, cool me. Not a clue. But by being able to understand that this is what's happening, that means whenever again, it's like reading sheet music. If you don't know how to read the sheet music, you don't know what you're looking at. But once you
no,
start learning to read the sheet music, then once you become fluent in sheet music, as soon as you look at the sheet music, you just see the patterns. You know what you're looking at. You know what the scales are. You know
yeah,
where everything is. And I think once you look at different poems enough and you really go, oh, that's assonance, that's consonants, that's alliteration, that's this, that's this type of alliteration, that's this, that's that. As soon as you look at a poem, your brain will function differently and you'll start breaking it down. This has this many feet.
yeah,
Oh, there, like how Bob will go, oh, you did all that with iambic pentameter. I'm like,
yeah.
sure, I
Sure,
did.
I did, yeah. But then that's when you were saying you didn't do it, and I read one of your poems and laughed, and I sent you a copy. And I said, "Yeah, but
Yeah, I know.
you've you've used
I
consonant
use things a
alliteration
lot and I
throughout
don't
here.
realize it.
Yeah, and you've
Yes.
done that, and you've done that, and yeah, it's there, but you've done it. But that's the beauty of it. You've used these techniques, um, but it's not forced because it's
But
just
I
come
don't
out of,
realize it.
which is probably a good way.
But no, I like it because I like understanding better because it means when I look at certain poems, because I've always kind of like looked some of your poetry when you're doing the forms, your poetry flows very differently than mine does on a lot of those. I fall back on my nursery rhymey kind
Yeah,
of, and you don't, you pick up some of these other things. And so when reading yours, it has this very melodious elegance to it, whereas mine's like da, 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 and it doesn't, it's not the same.
but it's
And
good though, isn't it? Because if we all wrote the same,
no, 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 I'm not putting
no,
myself down, but
no,
I'm saying,
no,
I'm
no.
saying by knowing this, because because you're doing these things with intention, I mean, naturally, but with intention, because you
Yeah,
understand them better. And you understand that the form says use this here and use that there. So probably subconsciously, even when you're thinking about it, you're thinking in this way because you know, you understand it. And so I think by understanding and knowing it, that would add to those of us who do these things naturally. If we understand what we're doing and know how we're doing it, and then when we read it, we'll be able to use that natural inclination with more
yeah,
finesse.
yes. Because it's there. Because I think most people I've met on here write beautifully well,
Yes,
and they really do. And
yes,
yeah, and if we can all learn from these chats and things, and we can all move forward and learn something, even on a subconscious level, I think it's good. It's
I
good.
think so too. I
Yeah,
think so too. It's
yeah.
exciting.
Yeah, very much so.
And so then and that's kind of what we were talking about here is internal rhyme is rhyme that occurs in the middle of the line. But that's also, so is that what would be called in like in the Tadai and the different forms where they bring that rhyme? Is
That's
that the
right.
internal rhyme
Yeah,
then?
because we have, if we look at the Todai, we have the before we hit the pause, we have our rhyme, and then after the pause, so that's fixed internal rhyme. Then yeah, so that part the internal rhyme. Then we have our end, but then our end becomes the internal rhyme in the next line. But that
Smooth a
is
little.
fluid, yeah,
Right.
which makes
And
it
I didn't get that fixed
a
and
bit more
fluid. I
fun.
did not put that on there.
Yeah,
I should
yeah,
have.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
No, that's right. But well, I mean, these are all things we can work with as we're working through them. And
yeah.
it's one of those things that some people have slipped up on, that those last three syllables on the first line of a Todai couplet are they're fixed. You have
Yeah.
an A rhyme, you have a pause, which people have missed, you have a
I
syllable,
missed.
then you have the B rhyme, and then the B rhyme is carried on to the next line, which is floating, and then the A rhyme again then comes at the end. But when you look at the way the line's laid out, it's almost vertically below the A rhyme above.
Yeah, they'll be able to see that in the poem that you selected because I did really good on the first two stanzas, and then
Oh,
on the last two,
oh,
I
brilliant.
slipped the end. I slipped the end. I
Yeah,
didn't include the pause, so that'll show up.
yeah, but yeah, that's right. But like we said though, never ruin a good poem by doing that.
I know, but it's good to see. It's good
It's
to
good.
see the
It's good to
difference.
see, and it's good to say, oh yeah, I could have done that differently.
Yeah,
Yeah, I could have had a slightly different word choice, which would have added something else to it. Um, but yeah, but it was
I
good.
agree.
It was good. It was good. So
And then
then
we
we've got,
have,
yeah, right.
go
Where are we
ahead,
now?
the masculine rhyme, where it's a rhyming stress syllables at the end of
End of
lines.
lines.
And then so it's so you're stressed, so your syllables that are at the end of lines that are rhymed, they're the bum.
Down the bump.
They're,
Yeah.
yeah. And then feminine is the ba. They're the soft. So, and I didn't know that you could have a masculine or feminine rhyme at the end. I
No,
did not know that.
because if you look at it, if you look at the sonnet, it starts off feminine and ends masculine.
Well, I didn't know
And
that was a thing. I
no,
had no
yeah,
idea there was masculine and feminine
no.
rhyme.
And then we look at was the antibest, wasn't it? The antibest, which was the opposite round. So it starts
Yeah.
off with a masculine drive, but it ends with a feminine rhyme. So yeah, I think it's something we all miss because we're so wrapped up in whether it's a stress or not stress. you miss that piece.
Yeah.
Oh, don't we all love metaphor?
Yes.
We love we love playing with metaphor because it gives us an understory to our poetry.
It makes the poetry more poetic.
It does, and it means that it gives the reader more scope to imagine what the
Yeah.
poet's saying.
Yeah, it creates that, what is it? Poetic diction.
It does, yes. Yeah. Well, like you said there, she smiles moonlight into my darkest nights. I mean, I think it really puts the romance into romantic poetry and love poetry, and well, even grief, because we liken, to weeping skies and clouds
Yeah.
and thunderstorms rolling, and yeah,
And that's one of the things most of us do get taught during like elementary school.
yeah,
But I think if we don't use the definitions and stuff a lot, we can forget it because
you can,
even I sometimes I'm like, no, wait a minute, is metaphor as is or is it not? So a metaphor is a way to describe the subject in a manner that helps the reader understand it without using like or as.
yes,
Ash
that's
says
right,
feminine
yeah.
rhymes really give a little room for sloppiness earlier in the line. Do
Ooh,
they? Do
I
they?
don't know. I wouldn't have thought so, really. No, but oh
No, I do wonder what she's saying because she rhymes
yeah, I do.
really well. So I
Yeah, yeah,
actually
yeah.
I wonder if she means like because it's a soft drop off, it means you can use different. You can go kind of slant rhyme with it without or half rhyme with it because you have that softness falling
Could
where
well
you
be.
don't have to hit it
Yeah,
quite as hard.
no,
So it gives it kind of a
because
you can
you've
play.
already engaged your reader. Your reader's already engaged and going down
Yeah, is
that
that what
line.
you mean?
Yeah,
Like like under and fella could maybe be used even though they don't rhyme, but since they both end soft and kind of with that drop, you could kind of get it going. Is that what you mean by sloppiness? Or it gives a little room for sloppiness earlier in the line.
in the line. I don't know. We'll have to look at that one a bit deeper. I think on what
Yeah, I'm not
Ash
quite
thinks
sure.
that.
I'm not quite sure what you mean by sloppiness earlier
Yeah.
in the line. So you mean like not in
In
sound. It's
sound,
not as sharp, so it really gives the air a little more melodic play. Ah, yeah. So
yes,
that's what.
get you now. Yeah,
Thank you. That makes a lot more sense.
it does.
Uh, yeah. So it's like you got that the melodic softness in the end,
Yeah,
like I was soft. Whereas if you were hitting that hard punch, you couldn't really do that. Um,
it will drop off strangely. Um, yeah, if you're hitting it hard,
if it
yeah,
if you were being sloppy with it, yeah.
yeah, yeah, it will
Angela's
almost
like, I have
parody
no
what she
idea.
says.
I get it. I get what you're saying, Ash. I get
Yeah,
what you're saying.
we get
Thank
it.
you. Um, and so the metaphor is that descriptive without. I mean, if you were in elementary school, you had to remember metaphors don't use like or as. Similes use like and
Like
as.
that.
So and that moves into a simile, whereas a metaphor is she smiled moonlight into my darkest nights. A simile would be her smile lit up my heart like moonlight on a
Like,
dark night.
yeah, so
Same sentence,
yeah,
same description, different sentences.
but the metaphor sounded so much.
More poetic.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, to
Yeah.
draw you in, and it conjures the imagination. Yeah, because you've got to. Whereas you're being told in a simile, in the
Yeah.
metaphor, it's left to your imagination of how you see this smile and this darkest night that it radiates. And
Yeah, it's interesting how just adding a word or taking a word away can completely change
yes, yeah,
a line.
or just
And
twisting it round.
I found that I think that's why I get so obsessed more so with the sound of the words than the meaning of the words necessarily, because you can play with the meaning of a word.
Yeah,
You can, you know, I think we get too hung up these days in our modern society on using the literal definition of a word, but that's not poetry.
it's not
That's
poetry.
not,
No,
and you don't need to use that literal definition of a word. You can just play with the word, and by playing with the word, that can make the poem sound
yeah,
so
definitely.
much cooler.
Yeah, yeah, because you're even if you're slightly changing that meaning and that definition, the
It's
reader will go
still,
with you because it's
yeah,
there. Yeah,
because it sounds good.
yeah,
I don't know. That's just a me
yeah.
thing. I know some people would say, no, bad Angelique, but
No, no,
I
I don't
like
think so.
it.
Yeah, we'll come back to our good friend Will Shakespeare. He conjured up a good 1,800 or more words added to the English language that never existed because he liked the sound of them.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. And I think mistakenly did one once where people, sort of, and people love the word, and you're thinking it's a mistake. I didn't really mean to do it. It was a typing error. As awesome,
Blake as blank
as
as is
blank as.
awesome for rhyme play.
Yeah, blank as.
I don't know what you're saying, Ash.
No,
I'm sorry. Quick as Rick as like that? Quick as Rick as slick as, well, I'm not going there, but like that?
play.
We'll move on and then we'll come back to
We'll
that
move on. Come
whenever.
back to that one. Yes, when
Yeah.
Ash pops something else up. So we go on. Move on to sound devices. And
Thank you, Tommy.
yeah, thanks, Tommy. Yeah, alliteration. Repeated sound at the beginning of multiple words like Sally sold seashells or Peter picked a peck of pickled pepper. A peck of pickled pepper. Peter picked. Yeah. But
Yes.
then that is, yeah, consonant alliteration.
Alliteration. Yeah. And I think that's something to make clear on, to clarify on, because so often people will go, that's not alliteration, that's consonants. But no, it's consonants and alliteration.
Yes, it's
Or,
consonant alliteration. That's right.
yes.
Oh, one
Ah,
too
one
many
too many
blanks.
blanks. That
Right.
makes sense.
Yeah,
Okay, then that makes sense. Thank you.
yeah. Because you can have consonant alliteration and you can have assonant in alliteration. So they're all very, very close bedfellows.
Yes. And so assonance in and of itself is when two or more words close to each other have the same vowel sound, like
Yeah,
doom and gloom does loom so soon. That by combining all of that,
yes.
it it creates an interesting rhythm and feel, but
It
it's
does
because of
it
all
too
the
with the mouth.
oohs.
Yes. Yeah.
Angela says, "Going to tell her this is a classroom, not a discussion." Oh, Angela, we're welcome. We always welcome discussion. We
We
do.
do, always. And then
And
something
so,
we've mentioned loads of times, consonants. Yeah, the
yes,
repetition
consonants.
of consonant sounds in words and phrases. Naughty nymphs neutered noisily. Nonsensical nouns nightly.
And so that is both consonants and
Yes,
alliteration.
alliteration. Yeah, that's right.
And I guess since it has oi and app, no, it doesn't. That's not. So it's got naughty noun, noise. So it wouldn't be assonants as well, even though they're close to each other, right? Or would
Yeah,
it?
no, that's right. No, no,
Okay.
yeah.
And then onomatopoeia is a word that sounds like it sounds.
A natural sound. Yeah.
Yeah. A
Crash.
crash,
Yes.
roar,
Yeah.
storm into the night, child. Those three would be onomatopoeia, right?
Yes. I would be on. Yeah. Say as it's here, as it is.
I gave good
Because,
examples. Yay.
yeah, brilliant examples.
I was worried. I was like, oh, don't get this wrong, Angelique. Everybody will see it's on paper.
And it'll be there forever.
It'll be there forever and
Yeah.
it'll be on YouTube forever. You are dumb, Angelique.
No,
No, I'm
no, no, no,
kidding.
no, no. Oh, then we come to our favourites. Everybody loves rhyme schemes. Everybody throws a purple fit when they see rhyme schemes.
And this helps, and this goes into the whole idea of the knitting patterns because when you
Yeah,
see a rhyme scheme and you see all these letters, you go, what does that mean?
yeah.
But
What do I
all a
do with
rhyme
that?
scheme is each letter represents the ending sound of a line.
That's it.
That's it.
Yeah,
Each letter is one line and they're in chronological order, and if the letter's the same, then it rhymes together, and if it's not, it doesn't.
it doesn't. That's right. So if we do an A B rhyme, C D, and then that's alternating rhyme. So, and often you can carry out a longer poem with that without it becoming.
Tedious.
I thought about that. I'm thinking, shall I say tedious or not?
Tedious.
Yes, it
Yeah.
becomes tedious. It does. Um, and then, like coupled rhyme, that works beautifully. A B B C D D. They, yeah, that does. Yeah, it always works well. And yeah, monorhyme. It can work very well, but just
I
it's
find that it tends to only work if you were like going hardcore into it and you're using
yes,
either big words to describe something really horrific that's going on,
yeah,
or you're being sly with your word. Like
yeah.
to pull off a good monorhyme, you have to have wit.
You do because, and then surprisingly, you'll be adding consonant rhyme or assonance rhyme within the lines
Oh
to
yeah.
give it some body. Otherwise, you've got this. It becomes just a very dead row of words.
Yeah, because you're hitting I because I like to do monorhymes
Yeah,
sometimes,
have
depending
fun.
upon what the subject matter is. But I find when doing the monorhymes, how I hit that last three,
Yeah,
4 syllables, I want to vary. Even though I'm keeping the rhyme, I use the rest of it to create a variance, and
and
that
that's
rhythm is what
yeah,
keeps it from going da 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 da.
and
Da.
that's when you can get away with that same ending because you've varied so much of the other in the other lines. But they still mean similar, but they are
Yeah.
you just played with words,
But it's
and
like when you
that's
go back and forth between asking a question and then hitting hard home and then just kind
yeah,
of sliding something smooth in, all those different things. creating that variance in voice, because I think when you write a monorhyme like that, those are to be read out loud.
They
Those
are.
That's oral
Yeah,
poetry, I think. And so you want that modulation of voice to make it interesting, right?
definitely do. Yes, because otherwise it becomes if you could spoil a good poem by just keeping monorhyme and not doing the body. That you have all the ingredients there, but without having that little mix coming through, then yeah, it can be tedious. And enclosed rhyme is a good one. I like enclosed rhyme, and
Yeah, I do too.
often after I play with closed rhyme, and you may see that I have an A, but it may not reappear until 4 or 5 down, and then
Yeah,
within that you've got B, B or C or B, C's.
so enclosed rhyme is when the beginning rhyme and the end rhyme is the same. So you can have all sorts of stuff in the middle,
Yeah,
but your first line and whatever the last line of that stanza is will be the same
and
rhyme.
we'll tie up, and that will tie and we'll tie it all
Yeah.
together. That's right. You can really work it. Yeah, a simple 4 line rhyme, A B C B. Yeah, and then you reconnect it below with you carry on the C, and then you'll do C, D, E, C, or yeah, and then
Yeah.
carry on again. So you use that spare end rhyme as your link to the next stanza.
It's kind of like an example. It's a longer example. So is it a longer example of a chain rhyme, or is a chain rhyme only 3 syllables?
Um, yeah, it's probably longer. Yeah, longer example of that. Yeah, because you just and it's used in other forms as well, where you tie up the the next line so that they've got some because you change the end rhyme totally, but by actually dropping one in, you create a link.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
And then you
yeah,
have
and
the
then that
chain
carries on.
rhyme. That is your ABA, BCB, CDC, DED.
Yeah,
And so you're just bringing one down. You're bringing the center one to start the next
yeah,
one. And it just kind of creates a roll.
it does. Yes, and yeah, and lowercase x is a syllable.
Yes.
It's a basic syllable. It doesn't mean it's
It's
doesn't
not
have to.
rhyme.
You
It
can do
can be
things with
rhyme.
it.
I mean, you can use rhyme in them, but
Yeah,
X just means however many X's. I mean, well, however many letters go across the line, that's how
yeah,
many syllables the line
yeah,
is. Every single letter is one syllable,
yeah,
always.
yeah,
And so
yeah.
the X's
Each
are
word.
just open syllables. They can be anything.
Yeah. So you've got the base rhyme, which will be, like say, end rhyme or a bit of internal rhyme, but you can play with those syllables. You can use consonant rhyme with them. You can use assonance, but
You can
they're
do
not.
anything with them.
Yeah, that's what you. But that's how you pad it. You not pad out. That's
It's
how
the
you
meat.
you give body to your poetry. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And then if you have a capital letter that's not an X, like you have a capital
yeah.
A or a capital B, that means full rhyme.
You're aiming for full rhyme, and then your
Yes.
lowercase is your heart.
Half
It
rhyme.
could be half rhyme,
Or it could
assonance
be in,
rhyme, consonant rhyme.
yeah.
Yeah, but you're not. But you don't want it the same. If you've got an uppercase A with an uppercase A, and you're using lowercase a, you don't want your lowercase a the same as your uppercase a.
That's a good thing to point out. That's a good thing to point out.
Because yeah, on one of ours we have it where
Do we?
somebody's used the same end throughout throughout the stanza.
Well, it gets confusing. I mean, I think if we haven't like Dante asks tercets, uh, I don't remember exactly how that reads, but if it's a tercet, probably most
Yeah,
tercets I've read that rhyme are either in a chain rhyme or in a mono rhyme, aren't they?
yeah,
Usually.
usually, yeah. Go through. I mean, Dante's one you pick up and put down and come have to years afterwards.
Yeah. And so then you have your Sesera.
Yeah,
I
Cesare,
call
yeah,
it a hyphen.
Cesare, yeah,
Yeah. And that's a pause. So
yeah,
if any time on the knitting pattern, if there is a hyphen in there, you can't make a straight sentence. And he's going to nitpick my poem that he's going to share and show where I missed that on some. Um, but it can't be a full sentence. There has to be a
the
pause.
pause. And use that pause because whatever comes after that pause,
It's
it's the punch, but you can use it as an enjambment onto the next line to tie the next line together, providing
I
you
didn't write
tie.
what enjambment is. Explain enjambment
Yeah,
because that was a
yeah,
new
don't
word
know.
for me.
Yeah, I like using enjambments. I do.
No, but I
Sometimes
mean,
when I
explain to
shouldn't.
them what enjambment is because I don't think most people have heard of that word.
So it is to an enjambment is so you write your stanza, you write your first line, and as you swing down to the next line, you're actually carrying it forward to the next line. So although the first line reads perfectly, you can actually carry it through to the second line. So it just gives that natural flow. So the lines snake together by using enjambment.
So is it also enjambment whenever the lines carry through and then there's a period in the center of the second line?
Yep.
That's still
Yeah. Yeah.
enjambment,
It's still
right?
enjambment. Yeah. Yeah. You
Okay.
can use it. You use it as it's a technique that you want a line, but your 10 syllables, and
So it's
you
cheating.
no, it's being smart.
So it's cheating. Okay.
It's being smart. It's
It's
using it. You're
cheating.
thinking, and
It's cheating.
it's being smart. It's being a poet.
Cheating. Cheating, cheating, cheating. And enough people's like, yes, this makes it easier. So they put it in the book. So they were like, let's give it a word and it's no longer
Yeah.
cheating.
No, well, that's right in German, but you have to be careful how you use it in German because it can go wrong for you totally. It
Explain.
depends how because you need to when you come round. So you're completing your line is in German, but the first line has got to read as though it belongs there. You can't just carry it through and it looks then. And then
I
obviously
don't
you've got
understand.
oh that's there. So when you do your line, so you're
Give an example of one
I'll
that
have to
is that works
yeah
and one that doesn't. Can you do
I'll
that
have
off
to
the top of your head?
not off the top of my head. I can't. No. I'm gonna have to dig it out. Um,
I mean, can you make up something off the top of your head? Because you make up things all the time so
I do
fast.
make up things all the time, but um, trying to think how it goes through. It generally works okay. Let's see if I can conjure something up.
Sorry for putting you on the spot.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Um, I think John Donne is probably a little bit complicated because we're going back to the 16th century.
But I just think, can you give an example of using it? Just make up something that's some lines that would work and that doesn't work. And that way we can hear the two.
Yeah, I'll sort that out for our next one.
Okay.
That works then because it's gone. It's gone. But it is carrying through. Um, yeah, it spans over without because where you wouldn't use comma or full stop, so you carry it through like you're saying, and you can put the full stop in the middle of the next line. You've carried your line through, but the line still reads naturally, and then you flow through to the next piece. But it picks up, and it picks up well. But I'll find one that doesn't one that
Yeah,
doesn't
I'd
like
like
that.
an example of what you're
Yeah,
saying doesn't because I guess I'm not, because I see a lot of poetry that I would not end a line the way it ends, but it does, and then it ends in the center, and I would think that's enjambment, but you're saying that's
It,
not
that is
good.
an enjambment, but it's not necessarily. If you picked it up, it's not necessarily a good way of
Oh,
using
okay.
enjambment. Yeah, because you've
That makes
noticed
sense.
that the line shouldn't finish there. Because I know
That makes sense.
we play with we play with commas and full stops and various things to move it around, but we don't always not end with a comma. It means we want to flow to the next line, but it doesn't necessarily mean we're using jammer to do it. You're fixing
Angela's,
reader to walk the plank. Judge it out, you are.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
So then does that mean, would you say that every line of poetry should have an end, even if
No,
it's carrying over?
no, not an obvious end. It's just the way you write it, read it. You're reading the line, and then you're reading the line is a line of poetry, and then to the next line. But if you're using German, you've not intended that line actually. It should not be obvious, totally obvious, that that's you've done that. The line on its own should still read well, not like you've oh, it's short, so they've gone round. I think if it's obvious, then you've probably not done it as well as you could have done it.
But if it's, I guess my confusion is if it's not obvious that it carries on, if you're reading it, then won't you pause or stop in the wrong place? Because I know I do that sometimes with
Yeah,
some
because
poems.
with some poems, if they flow round, they're not necessarily using jamment, but just the rhyme of it will let you carry on, and you'll carry on, and you'll put your own pauses in, because often we find it where we're reading it, and some of the this is some of this is not in the right place anyway.
So just because it carries around and stops in the middle does not mean it's in Jambit?
Not always, no, no.
Oh, I'm confused.
Okay, we
We'll
get that
have to
sorted
go
out next
back
time.
into that because
Yeah,
I don't understand the
we will look at
difference.
deeper. Yeah, we'll
Okay.
look at that deeper. So right, some basic. Oh, some examples on the sheets. You've got 8 syllable monorhyme, which is
Yes, that's
missing
just some
pattern.
examples of the knitting patterns
Yeah,
so that they can see other than the tie and those just that's a although it auto corrected a big X on there that I
yeah.
did not catch. But
I know it's always doing it, and you think so. Oh, why has it got the big X? Well, yeah, that's word.
yeah.
it's
Um
it's been awkward.
so if you look at that, an 8 syllable monorhyme means there's 8 letters there and 7 of them are X's and then the last one is will always be
Yeah.
that capital A.
Yes,
And that
it will
tells you
be.
that there's 4 lines of 8
Mm-hmm.
syllables that end with the same
Same in rhyme,
sound. Yeah.
and then alternating rhyme is yeah, as it's explained, A B A B, and
Yes.
that's how it works out.
And so hopefully that gives a better understanding of somewhat what the knitting patterns are. If you break your sentence down into syllables, however many syllables there are, you can put your first syllable, like the cat meowed. That's 4 syllables. So you would have X, 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 and each of those X's represent one of the syllables.
Yeah,
And
that's
then,
exactly that.
and so that's once you know that, if you know that the X's are syllables and you know that the capital letters are full rhymes that match each other, and then the lowercase ones are half rhymes that match each other, there's not a pattern that can't be put in front of you that you
No,
can't read because you
no,
can
that's
now
right.
read the sheet music, so you can now read any form that exists.
Yeah,
Not
No,
ending a line in blue and continuing the next line
line
with
with green.
green.
You
Oh,
could do that.
Ash.
You could do that, Ash.
I don't even understand what that means. Y'all are talking over my head.
Right. Now we come on to a tie-dye from the Breath of Daydreams.
That I got some really well and some really wrong.
Yeah, it's a really good poem.
It's great. I love the poem, but
Yeah, that's
it's
it. But
not
yeah, but as a form, it's
correct.
slipped just a bit. So it reads, looking at us, many will see a sin. If I just read the poem first, because then, or at least the first stanza, because even
Okay.
though a sin hangs out at the end of the pause, you started the next line, that we are trash. So,
Should we read this each should we read the stanza before you go in correcting
yeah,
them? That way they can
yeah,
hear it.
right, yeah. So, looking at us, many will see a sin, that we are trash in society. Worry not, for their small minds know little. Their common tittle can't dim our glow. So that's the first stanza. So just do a stanza by stanza,
Yeah.
or read the whole thing. Yeah.
Do
So
it stanza by stanza.
yeah,
That way they can, and then we'll read it stanza by stanza and then break down everything I got
yeah.
wrong and right, and then we can read the whole poem and show that you can get quite a bit wrong and still have a pretty
Should have a
poem.
good poem. Yeah, that's right. So what we've got looking at us, many will, and they are the lower X syllables. And then C is the initial A rhyme for the first
Yeah,
line.
so we should explain
Yeah,
what, because we didn't
yeah.
actually say what a Tadai is. So let's
Oh no,
say
we
the
didn't, did we?
syllable count of what the Tadai is.
Yeah. So the Tonai couplet is a couplet with one line of 10 syllables and a second line of 9 syllables. It is commonly used in a combination in Welsh poetry. They love couplet poetry and then combining couplets to make different styles of poetry and making it twist and interesting. So yeah, so Todai, and then the 10 syllable first line has a pause after the 8th syllable. So on the 8th syllable, we have our full rhyme, A. Then we have a pause, then we have a basic syllable, and then we have our B rhyme.
And it has to pause because that later I didn't, but you
Yeah,
have to have the pause. It
yeah.
can't just be a sentence that
No,
goes, and you can't use a word that crosses.
no, because it won't make sense.
Yeah.
Because the way Angelique has done the first line is looking at us, many will see a sin. But cleverly, she carries on with that we are trash. So, in a way, she's done an enjambment because the second line actually, even though it's not obvious, it carries on
It's not
nicely.
in Jambit,
Not totally. That's not a total enjambment, but the word still works together in the line.
but it's in line. I don't understand how that's in Jambit
Yeah,
because looking at us, many will see ellipsis a sin.
sin.
Period. If that's a period,
Yeah,
how does
you can
that
use a
become in
period. Yes, yeah,
Jambit?
yeah.
I don't
Well,
understand.
I look at it that way because the sin and that they work together nice because you're just carrying it through. It looks like it naturally carries on. So there is a period. It is a period stop. So it's not true enjambment, no, but it just works nicely together.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You
So
were
looking at
confusing
us,
me.
many will see a sin that we are trash in society. So the B rhyme So we have the B rhyme at the end of the first line, and our B rhyme is floating within the body of the second line. And so we have in tying up with sin.
But I got that wrong since does it matter that oh no, I didn't.
No,
Okay.
it works. Yeah,
Yeah, that
yeah,
does
because
work.
yeah, that works right.
Knee and T. Okay.
And yeah, and then in society, so C and T, it kind of works.
Well, no, because it's a half rhyme, so it doesn't
Yeah,
have to be a full rhyme. So it
no,
totally works, right?
it does.
C and
Well,
T.
but if we're looking at A, we're looking at that's the A rhyme. So that's full rhyme.
Right.
Yeah,
Oh,
and that
sorry. Okay.
yeah, and
So
T
full rhyme
would be
it can't be visual. It can't just be sound. It has to be.
well. It's a bit tricky because within Welsh poetry, it's more how it sounds. So even though it's not a full rhyme, it still works nicely.
But if we're going by just English poetry, then the sound
Then
is not what counts.
mm,
Visuals, the
vis-
actual letters are what
the actual
counts.
letter is what counts. Yeah, the syllabilistic count of it. So,
Okay.
but for Welsh, it does work nicely in there. Yeah, T and C because they've got a similar they've got a similarity.
I always thought that rhyme, as long as it sounds exactly, but
Yeah,
that's full rhyme, but it's
not
not.
full rhyme. No,
Okay.
no. And then worry not, for their small minds know little. Their common tittle can't dim our glow. So we have worry not, for their small minds, and then our A rhyme, or in this case will be C, no, then pause, and then little. So we've got tull as our B rhyme.
And I used full rhyme, so then that makes that wrong because I used a full
Yeah.
rhyme.
But we're still using, but you're using a, a second syllable of a letter. So it does it work when you're speaking it as a spoken poetry. It does work. It does work. Yeah, but because that is half rhyme. Yeah, so that's right. You say so it's not half rhyme, but it works okay. Yeah.
When something calls for half rhyme, can you use half rhyme or full rhyme?
Um, you're
Or
better
do you
off.
have to
You're
use
better off.
half rhyme?
You're really better off slanting a bit if you can, but it still reads well. So and we're looking for the way it's spoken, so the way it
Right.
flows. So it
Yeah,
does go.
but we do want to know on the forms. I mean, because
Yeah,
if we were entering this into a contest or something, so we want
yeah.
so it's important to understand that if I'm understanding you
Yeah,
correctly, if
yeah.
it's a lower case, and that means slant rhyme, that means you cannot use a full rhyme and it be
You should not.
legal.
That's right. You shouldn't. Yeah, that's right. You should avoid using full rhyme there because we're not asking for full rhyme.
Okay.
We're asking for a half rhyme or a slant rhyme.
Okay.
Yeah, and then can't dim our glow. So we have no and we have glow.
So far that's one I've gotten wrong.
So that's good.
I'm
Well,
keeping
sin.
score.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, sin and in work. Yeah, they work nicely as well in the first bit. So next stanza. I am lost in the poetry of us. Movement to discuss a symphony. Our unique plus is a blessing evolved, a mystery solved, effervescing.
And I got several wrong.
Yeah. So I am lost in the poetry. I'm lost in the poetry, but you're using tree as your A rhyme.
Re
Re,
poetry.
yeah, re, yeah, and of us as your B rhyme. So movement to discuss.
Does that count since it's two S's? Does that
That's
count as
yeah.
slant?
No,
Okay.
it's yeah. Well, it's not the same, but it sounds the same. So yeah, that works nicely. A symphony A symphony is re and knee.
So I missed that because that's not full even though
Not
it
full
sounds
rhyme.
good, it's
Yeah,
not full rhyme. So
no.
so that one's incorrect.
So theoretically, yeah, but
Theoretically
it's
incorrect. So
but as
two,
the poet goes, it sounds good.
right.
And as we're looking for, as we are looking for sound, it does sound very good.
It sounds good, but it's wrong.
Yeah.
Okay.
Our unique plus is a blessing evolved, a mystery solved, effervescing. So
Three,
yeah, so
three
you've
wrong.
used in
Four
as your
wrong.
A. You've used in as your A rhyme and evolved as your B rhyme, and then you've tied that with solved, your B rhyme, and ing again as your A rhyme.
We're up to three.
Yeah. So, well, ing, yeah, because
Because
you've
they
used
don't
that.
count.
Yeah,
I mean, if the evolved and solved doesn't count as a half rhyme, right?
no, but it sounds good.
It sounds good, yes,
Yeah,
but we're counting how much I messed up and it still sounds good.
it
But so
still
far
sounds
I've
good.
messed up three
Yeah,
times.
yeah.
So
So, right. Love, hope, and peace tune us into the stars. We are the memoirs of a breakthrough. Dancers spinning extraordinarily. So you've
that was messed up.
we've yeah, because we need a pause.
Yeah.
So it would be like a stutter, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
To go
So it
extraordinary
sounds good. Love, hope, and
again.
peace tune us into the stars. We are the memoirs of a breakthrough. Dancers spinning extraordinarily. Celebrate with glee. Dare not impair. But it's wrong.
Yeah,
It's
but it
wrong.
sounds
It's totally
great.
wrong.
But it sounds great.
So
Well, I think you
to
can
and through
you can get away
work.
with stars and hours because they've got slip rhyme. They sound. They have a very similar sound. They've got the RS at the end, and
Oh.
that's your B rhyme.
But to and through don't count them because they're
No,
not, because even though they sound the same.
they sound the same, but they're not true rhyme.
Four.
And then your dancers spinning
Five.
extraordinarily. You've
I
we've lost the
I
pause.
completely left the pause.
Yeah,
Yes.
and then you get away with Lee and Glee
Oh
because we're
yay.
looking for slant rhyme and but not R and pair.
Six. Six.
Right. We are the fortunate souls who have climbed. Our spirits have timed us a breakthrough. Revel in our blessed ingenuity, not fortunate,
Not fortuity.
not
Or
fortuity,
rendezvous.
our rendezvous. Um, right.
So climbed and
Climbed and
timed.
timed
Even though it sounds good, it doesn't count, right? Because it's not a
because
full
it's,
rhyme.
yeah. No, it's a full
Seven.
rhyme. Yeah. No, that's because climbed and times is your B rhyme.
Oh, right. So
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah. Who and through is your full rhyme.
So that's not okay
Not
because
quite okay. No.
seven.
It sounds good, but because it's got the same sounds in it.
I
But
bet
so
nobody's made as many mistakes as I've made in this.
we all do. Um,
And then I really screwed up
right.
the
And
last two.
then yeah, revel in our blessed ingenuity. Ingenuity, but we've lost the pause, and not fortuity, our rendezvous. So we have our B rhyme is not
Five.
TNT, and our and through
10. Perfect 10.
perfect 10. But but
I got a
It's
perfect 10 wrong.
it's a lovely poem, and it reads
Thank you.
really well. And it reads really well. It reads really well. It does. It reads.
I do
But
like the poem. May I
yeah,
read it so we can hear how a poem, a Tadai that's gotten 10 things wrong, can sound?
it sounds brilliant. Yeah,
So, lost in the poetry of us,
yeah.
looking at us, many will see a sin, that we are trash in society. Worry not, for their small minds know. Can you mute? Sorry, I apologize.
Oh,
When reading, I can't keep up. Thank you. Lost in the poetry of us. Looking at us, many will see a sin, that we are trash in society. Worry not, for their small minds know little. Their common tittle can't dim our glow. I am lost in the poetry of us. Movement to discuss a symphony. Our unique plus is a blessing, evolved, a mystery solved, effervescing. Love, hope, and peace tune us into the stars. We are the memoirs of a breakthrough, dancers spinning extraordinarily. Celebrate with glee, dare not impair. We are the fortunate souls who have climbed. Our spirits have timed us a breakthrough. Oh, dang it, I used that twice. Revel in our blessed ingenuity, not fortuity, our rendezvous. I'm going to say 11 because I should not have used this. I hate using the same word twice in a poem. So 11, 11 things wrong in that poem. Unmute, 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 unmute.
where you've got the pause, it really works beautifully well. I mean, see
When I did
a
it,
sin, no little poetry of us, blessing evolved. They work really well. And yet, to the stars and who have climbed. So there's only two or three, isn't there? Of those ones that didn't go quite right.
and
The
now
two.
that I'm And now that I'm understanding that I got 11 things wrong in this poem for the form, you guys were way too incredibly kind when y'all come around and told me I did a good job. I mean,
You did a good job.
it's a great
It's a
poem,
lovely
but I
poem.
completely wrecked the form. And I would have liked to have known you completely wrecked that form
Yeah,
instead of patting myself on the back going,
yeah,
yeah, I got
yeah.
this. No, I did not.
No. I think as a verbal poem, um, I think the only bits that went awry, really awry, were the
Where I
pauses
Yeah, the
because
pauses.
to read it verbally, it works, and the tie-ups are very good. They work really well. So the only bits that go really awry are the two, with the missed pauses, where
So,
we have, yeah.
so if I entered this into a competition, would all
Well,
of those things be butchered? I mean,
yeah, well,
I don't mean butchered, but would every single one of those things be go, no, 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 no,
you'd
no?
lose the pauses would be we noticed.
Definitely.
I think if you looked to try and be doing facial to the form, it would be well received. But the pauses would be, well, you've you've not done the tie couplet because you've totally missed the pause.
I missed the
Yeah,
pause on
yeah,
those two.
yeah,
So then people don't have, so the half rhyme, getting a whole rhyme or half rhyme is accepted.
yeah. Because it's a verbal. It has to read right. So it's like when your first line is many will see a sin. It has a natural pause because you've you've got it ready for that, and then yeah. So if you just read it as a straight line, it wouldn't have that impact.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
That
and
makes
even when you
sense.
go down to the poetry of us, you've added strength to it, because it's easy to say, oh, it's poetry of us, but by making a stronger statement, you've stopped. You've said,
So
I'm lost in the poetry of us, which is lovely.
so really what we need to know when we're looking at these forms and stuff is if it has one of those in there, we need to know literally as you're writing it out, make sure you're leaving yourself room to stop and take a breath. There's a
Yeah.
pause there for that. Um,
And when you get it right, it puts so much impact into what you're doing. Because, like we said before, really, it is a verbal form. So it's all about how it sounds. But those little elements are important. So the way the rhymes link up, they linked up, and they linked up okay. So it all sounds really nice. But the pauses will notice, because you've suddenly used a multi-syllable word where
yeah, and I
you
shouldn't
can't
have.
naturally pause, because even like our unique plus is a blessing evolved.
Hey, Leslie.
Hi, Leslie.
We just found out that my poem, which is a beautiful poem, had 11 mistakes.
But only two major ones.
Only two major ones and 11 ones on the half, putting a full rhyme on a half rhyme and a half
Yeah,
rhyme on a
yeah.
full rhyme.
But they worked. But yeah, but it flowed beautifully. So as verbal poetry, it is really good. But
Thank you.
the two missed pauses
They
are
were wrong.
they're the ones only ones we need looking at.
And I'm ashamed of myself actually for making those because I know better than doing that. I don't know why I did that. I probably got lazy because I was tired of writing the poem. It's probably what happened. I do that when I write long poems sometimes. I'm just like, oh, do I have to write more?
I
And then
did
I
one.
just get lazy.
I did one, and I
You
wrote the
did.
poem, and I loved it. And then when I looked at the rules, I'd used disyllabistic endings rather than try. So I was like, oh, I had to do it all again.
All over again.
All
We're going
over
to
again.
go. We're doing yours on we're doing everybody's on Sunday and Monday. He's been breaking them down syllable for syllable so that y'all will have the visuals before you as he goes over it to see exactly what's wrong. He picked this one out. I did not know he was doing it to go over and um, to showcase because we're going to be critiquing everybody. If people write for forms, it's going to
Yeah,
get critiqued because that's what helps us grow. And so it's a showcase that you can write a beautiful poem, but still not be true to form. And so
yeah.
this wasn't true to form. I messed up 11 times. So
But
um,
only two important ones.
I'm going
Because
to clarify.
yeah,
I don't want it like smoothed over for me. For
no,
me,
it's
I
not
want
smoothed
like
over.
hardcore.
It's
You didn't
no,
do
like we
it.
say, the way they sound is more important than that element. But the pauses are a must to make it a Todd
Yeah,
Isaac
and I
couplet.
didn't pause
So,
twice.
so whether we're using half rhyme or full rhyme, providing it's not too repetitious, I think, and it sounds great, then yeah, we're okay.
It's
But
acceptable.
yeah, but the pause, missing the pause,
The pause is important.
it makes it.
The syllable count is a must, right? In
It's a
form.
10 and a 9, absolutely. Yeah, each
And
couplet is 10, 9.
and after the pause, it can only be two syllables, and that rhyme has to be on the
Yeah,
correct syllable.
it has, but yes, it has to be on the correct syllable. And you want to give impact to that.
It can't just be you put a stanza there and it
No, not
doesn't. I
anything
mean,
there.
a
No. I
cesar
mean,
there and it doesn't read right.
well, each time you've done it beautifully, haven't you? Like see, a sin. It's really, poetry of us and blessing evolved. They're all they really add something to the whole poem, and the pause adds it rather than just speaking the line. because you've actually stopped. You've added emphasis
Yeah.
to
Leslie
those.
says with the Sasara, you play. Yeah, you're playing in a way. You're flirting with the reader, really. I think that's what
You
I
are,
think of it as is
yeah,
you're flirting with the reader.
yeah, you
Um,
definitely are. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because I mean, you go on to say, don't you? And peace tune us into stars. Yeah, you really are. It's, yeah,
I think you almost have to with the Sasara. I mean, when I'm thinking about the use of them, you're either making a hard point on something,
yeah,
or you're being a bit flirty. You're being a
yeah.
bit dreamy.
That's it. And that's why you can't hear because all these. It's a very dreamy poem, really, because you've
Oh
got
yeah,
the
definitely.
we are for the fortunate souls who have climbed. But you're adding emphasis to each of those last two syllables of that first line, and that's what really ties all your poem together.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
That makes sense. So I'm excited to. I'm really excited to come in and break them down for people to see where it went wrong because I think that we should do before we move on to the next form.
yeah,
I think we should actually end up doing the tie-dye again
yeah.
once everybody has
It's a good
that
idea.
understanding because I think the poems that would come back afterwards. I mean, these poems were gorgeous poems. I read the
Very
poems and
nice.
I was like, "Oh, that is a beautiful
Yeah,
poem." It's just not a tie-dye. But I think that if I think we should come back and just give a free subject.
yeah.
Um,
On a tie-dye poem, and bear in mind we could look at this because there are actually three tie-dye styles. There's the plain tie-dye, which is this one, and you have the small tie-dye, and you have the long tie-dye as well. And they're both slightly different. But we stay on the this one, the this normal standard tie-dye.
just terrify us, Mike. Terrify
Yeah,
us.
yeah.
But
But you come across
any
this couplet again in other Welsh poetry, where it's added to a clear death or another couplet form, because they love couplet forms and they mix and match them together and spin them round and do all sorts of things.
so a couplet form. Let's is a couplet then. I always thought when people say couplets or quatrain, that was the stanza, but
Now, often a
there can be two
quatrain,
couplets in a quatrain, and
yeah,
it's still
exactly that.
call you still call it a
Yeah.
couplet.
Well, if you look, if you're doing like an AA and a BB, that's two couplets, but it could be in a quatrain, or even an AB AB. It's still two couplets in a quatrain.
Oh,
Yeah,
so it's what makes it the couplet is the end rhyme.
yeah, yeah.
I
No,
did not
definitely.
know that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, or the way you work it, because it still can be AB. And it still can be a couplet. Like when you write a sonnet is really a series of couplets, but three are written in quatrains, and then you have the final heroic couplet at the end, which actually ties it all together.
I guess I just don't. Why is it a couplet if it's in a quatrain? What makes it a couplet? Because
Well,
it.
you put them together to make a quatrain, so you've made a stanza of two couplets, but it's actually you call it a quatrain. But when you actually look at them, you've actually got two couplets. They might be A B A B.
But in order for it to, it's Leslie says the end rhyme has to be a perfect one, right? I'd have to go back and I'm not on the right
Which
page. Hold on, Leslie. Um, no, the the eighth the eighth rhyme has to be a perfect rhyme. The end rhyme is a half rhyme.
on the first on the yeah on the tie on the first line on the 10 syllable line, the eighth syllable is the full rhyme, and the 10th syllable is a half rhyme. And on the second line, the floating syllable in sort of like 3 to 7, it will be could be half rhyme, and the end
And then the
rhyme
end one.
is full rhyme.
They flip back and forth.
They flip back and forth.
I've noticed on these Welsh forms and the Celt forms you put out, if it has a middle, if it has a rhyme in the middle, then your end rhyme are never the same almost. They always go to the middle, and then that middle one always seems to go to that one, and they're always making these cross
They do. They seem to
sections.
sweep through. That's right. So that's how gives it the musicality when you read it. That's why it's a spoken form more than a totally visual form. So that's why, even though you not necessarily get half rhyme and full rhyme all the time, it still flows beautifully because it sounds right.
That makes sense.
And that's
And
what
so,
we're looking for. We're looking for sound because, yeah, if the full rhyme was there and it didn't really do much for the poem, then you spoil a good poem.
and the middle syllable can be anywhere between like the third and fifth or something like
Something
that.
like that, third and fifth, third and sixth, yeah. Yeah, it's fairly flexible.
Cool.
But it's the only one in the couplet that's flexible. So you've got the first two are rigid, are fixed, and then the second line you've got one floating, and then the end line is fixed.
And then when you do something like, let me pull it up real fast for the people, and we'll put a note on there. Um, I'm going to pull up this rhyming for it. For a villanelle, because some people have been confused
Oh, the film
on
now.
villanelle. A
Yeah.
10-syllable villanelle would be then, there is no estab. Let me, I'm trying to find the knitting pattern so that we can like look at, explain it really fast with the knitting pattern. But I don't know, is there a proper name for that? For what the knitting pattern is? Is there like a proper name?
I don't know. What's called a knitting pattern?
Um, the place that I used to go to look is not coming up because there was a website that always had them, and every poem form that they put, they would give that pattern. And I remember back when we did the Poetry Olympics and stuff like that, back in like 17 or whatever it was,
Yeah.
I would use that a lot to make sure that, because I didn't know what half of those patterns were. Um,
No, because that's one it's always good to write out because it's easy to flip up.
yeah. And so I thought we could go over that real fast just so people understand, but I'm not seeing a place with us the knitting patterns and I haven't wrote it out. So the rules of a villanelle are that the first and the third line of the opening tercet are repeated alternately in the last lines of the
Yeah.
succeeding stanzas. And then in the final stanza, the refrain serves as the poem's two concluding
Yeah.
lines. So if you're using capitals for the refrains and lowercase letters for the rhymes, the form could be expressed.
I think you'd be harder in as a pattern because it's more. I think it's more of a grid where you're alternating lines and then words.
Yeah, Leslie,
Yeah,
Leslie says it's not a knitting pattern.
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't think
Because
you're mistaken.
I think you struggle with it, yeah, like that because you're repeating lines, aren't you, all the time?
Yes. So
Yeah.
you repeat. So for
So
the
you have
first,
you have the first. If you're doing it as tercets, you've got yeah, you repeat the first line, and then the first line goes to the last line of the second stanza, and the last word of the third line goes to the end of the first, and then the middle line, they they rhyme, and they, yeah,
Hold
I
on,
don't,
I'm writing it down so I
yeah,
can rip this out and show people. And
it's
then
not.
I will also put it in the room. Because I think in this visualization makes a difference. So that is your villanelle.
That's it. Yeah,
Um, but it's not just ABA, Leslie,
no,
because you do have rhymes in it. That's why it's the first A is A1, B, A2, and then small AB. So those don't rhyme. And then that third line is the first A1, but they do rhyme.
they
Um,
do, because yeah, and you always end up in a quatrain, don't you?
yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
So they rhyme, but they don't always have to be full rhyme.
right.
Yeah,
And then the lowercase uh, lines also rhyme with each other, but
1 3 8
they're not the
refrains. Yeah,
repeating refrains. Yes, like well,
yeah,
on the first stanza, lines 1 and 3 are. On the second one, just line 3. On the third one, line 3.
yeah.
On the fourth one, line 3. On the fifth one, line 3, and on the sixth one, line
Line 3,
um,
line
3
4.
and 4.
Yeah,
So I don't think that's right. I don't think that's right
well, the thing is, they
because
vary
I'm
them as
looking.
well. Yeah,
Yeah, because
that's the
this is
problem.
not how I know a villanelle to be
No,
because it's too similar, and villanelles flip around in the middles. That, or at least the ones I've read do. Is this going to be a case of everybody's going to go look up villanelle and every single thing everyone looks is going to be different?
it's going to be different. Yeah, got a horrible feeling. Um,
That's messed up.
I know you end up writing a massive grid to get them all in the right place.
Now this one's doing the AB too, in the same way that that one did. But I
Yeah,
thought that I thought that I saw where they would flip the AB sometimes,
they do.
like mid.
There are variations. That's the problem. And different people have tried different ways of doing it.
And I know the one that we're doing for the gold ticket is a 10-syllable one. And even though we read often that it can be anywhere from 8 or 7 to 10, here on this page that I'm looking at, um, says that you will notice the villanelle often is metrically uniform. Dylan
Yeah,
Thomas does employ iambic pentameter, while Elizabeth Bishop's one art has tercets of 11, 10, and 11
yeah.
syllables. Uh, so it varies. in that way. But
just yeah, very much. Yeah, because well, yeah, do not go gently into the starry night. Yeah,
which is a
it's,
gorgeous
it's a
villanelle.
gorgeous poem, very clever poem.
Um,
Trouble is, a long time since I've written one. It's way back here somewhere.
but we'll put that pattern up for everyone.
We will do. We'll do
Um,
that. Yep.
and thank you guys for coming.
Thank you very much, and we will. Yeah, we'll do that. We
And
will
thank
sort
you,
out
Mike.
the enjambment part as well.
But Mike has Leslie. He has yours. He's going to be sending everybody theirs. He's got
Yeah.
Leslie's and Sharon's and Harry's.
And Harry's, and then we've got another
All
4 to do, I think.
yeah. And so next Sunday and Monday we'll be
Yeah.
breaking everybody who did the Tadai's poems down completely.
We will do.
And we're bringing our red pens.
We will. Right, yeah,
And
and
I
we will. Yeah, we will dig deeper for the no. I dig mine out because I must have done the grid pattern there. But it's. Do we all agree on the same pattern?
yeah.
Which I said.
Well, I that's what I'm finding interesting is the AB because I swear one of my favorite because I like to write villanelles, but I
Yeah.
swear I think on that Poetry Olympics there was something where I actually won something with a villanelle, but I don't
Yeah.
remember what it was that I won. I don't remember where it was, but I think that form flipped the ABs, but maybe I'm remembering wrong.
Yeah.
But I
I
can
know
swear.
some. They've done some. People have done some playing with it over time, but yeah. Go back.
Leslie says that is the
That's the
Dylan
Dylan
Thomas
Thomas one.
pattern.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, Leslie.
And we know that works.
Um, so thank you, Mike. And like he said, well, at the beginning of Sundays and Mondays is when those are going to get broken down
They are.
and critiqued kindly.
Yes, of
But
course. Yeah,
but
always.
we have after some discussion we have decided that within this since everybody who joins the society is joining so that they can grow and get better, and we're wanting to write beautiful poetry and improve our poetry and learn from each other and learn together. We can't do that if we are not calling out when a form that's got some really specific rules is not followed. That doesn't help anyone improve because they never know
No.
they get it wrong. Um, Still can be a gorgeous poem and a beautiful poem, but if nobody's saying, hey, man, you didn't do it right, you're
Not
never
quite.
going to
Yeah,
grow
yeah.
from it.
No.
So we are going to start pointing that out kindly, and we hope that everybody will enjoy having that. I know that most of you want that, uh, so I would encourage if you don't want that, you probably don't want to do the forms because all the forms are going to have that done when it's a form prompt. The
We have
other,
that. Yes, informal chat.
yeah,
Yeah.
informal chat, still going to be fun, still going to be uh, low key, and not ooh, you wrote this poem. But because like the one poem that I put up, I forgot that I wrote this one. I put the owl poem up as my example
Yeah.
of what it's about, and I loved my owl poem. I really loved my owl poem, or maybe it wasn't the Jedi, but whatever it was, but I'm pretty sure I got it wrong, and like I got
Right.
11 wrong in this, but I like this
Yes.
poem, but I got 11 wrong in it as well.
Yeah.
So it's good to know that because otherwise I might not have ever looked at that and went, oh, I really messed up in that poem a lot. I would have just went, that's a nice poem. But
It's a nice poem. Yeah.
it is, but I welcome
Only
the
two.
critique.
Only two major. Only two major.
I'm sorry.
And that was
Two
on the
major and 9 minor mistakes. Is
9
that better?
minor. That's right. Yeah. But it's the two pauses are the ones that
Yeah, the
really
pauses
stand
were
out.
really messed
That's
up.
right. Because I thought he reads really well. And
Thank you.
it has everything for a verbal poem. Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
And,
Right.
and Leslie's
Okay.
looking forward to having the critique, so that's really
Yeah.
good to know.
Okay. Brilliant.
And Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you. And thank you, Angie. See you
Thank you,
next time. See
Mike.
you on Friday.
Friday,
Friday.
our map show. May your
Bye
mood
all.
shine brightly. Bye. Or may your paws stay inky. Wow. Bye.